No, you go ahead, Wick. You go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, because this is fresh. This conversation, for me, is frustrating.
Why?
I would be.
Why?
I would not be shocked if it was more frustrating for me than for poor Tally here. I understand.
I have to take a minor break, okay? A break that is under 18 years of age, because every time Wick opens his mouth, an indescribable rage fills my very essence, my very soul feels torn asunder, okay? With that being said, be right back. I'm gonna move my clothing. You need some way to indicate to your audience that this kind of shit is not okay.
I
alright?
fear
It's really
that it
simple
might
as
be
that.
counter-effective when you try to cast this kind of like this 14.
No
What
one's
was
doing
it?
that, Wick. This is
14
insane.
million
No one
dead.
is doing that.
You were
Well, can I-
absolutely all
Well,
doing
we-
it.
no
Let
one's
me-
we have to
doing
lay
if
out
you
the-
allow
one's
me
doing
to
that.
explain, I will demonstrate it.
No one's doing that.
Like,
No
oh,
one's
you
doing
voted
that.
for Biden. All the blood of the Gazans are on your hands. You were the
No
one
one
who
said
No one
that
is being
specifically
here.
did
literally
that.
no one is being
Hutch
that.
with his question and the rest
No,
of you with
Hutch,
your
no,
questions
Hutch
about
was
this.
no.
You
I'm
won't
not
let me
saying
finish
that.
because you
That's
know
not-
I'm right.
no,
So you try to talk over
no,
me
no.
because you
That's not
can't
what
handle
happened.
This is
what we're trying to
bullshit.
say. What you're trying to do right now is cast the blame for the
No, that's not
deaths
what
and
Hutch was
all
trying
the
to do.
bad
No,
things that
that is
happened
not even-
no, that
on
is not at
Tully.
all what Hutch was trying
You
to say.
were
So
trying to
no.
showcase that,
So
and it's
Hutch
not
was
going to work.
listening. So Hutch was listening to Tali, and Tali said one thing I'm very concerned about
Any of your-
is the kind of nationalism that is embodied by these extremists. Hutch listened to what she said and said, well, here's a way that this manifests, that the nationalism of the extremists, which you attribute to the extremists, is actually, there's maybe more of it in the administration, and it's manifesting in a policy. And in that statement, more contrary to it being like a bad statement or trying to put the blame on Tali, she said that was the most compelling thing that she's heard so far. And she said, I have to think about it. So it's complete bullshit for you to now say, well, something that Tali took to heart out of Hutch listening to Tali is
you
somehow
able to read body
indication
language?
is somehow an indication that Hutch is
so
like
smart.
trying to berate
You're
her.
so smart.
Hold on,
Pico.
let me-
You-
let
you-
me-
hold
let
on,
me-
hold on,
let
hold
me-
on, no. Pico, you're so smart. You're so kind. Do you think I actually mean what I'm saying here?
You're
Even
full
though
of
those
shit.
words
You're
are what I'm
blaming Hutch.
using,
You're,
you think
you're,
I'm
you're
actually
blaming
meaning
Hutch.
it? How
You're,
can you
you're
tell
blaming Hutch
that
for
I don't
nothing.
mean what I'm saying here?
So,
Is
yeah,
there
you're
a
full of
method
shit
that
because
Oh nah. Dude, I'm so ready. Oh my god, I'm so ready. I'm so ready for the WhickTV bridge burning arc with Pisco. Holy shit. Two people whom I dislike. Dude. Two people whom I dislike who is now getting their due process. Okay? Getting their dues paid. Dude, I welcome this. I welcome the death. Okay? I welcome the chaos. Alright, thank fucking God. Okay? Base Pisco. Okay, base fucking Pisco. Not falling for WhickTV's fucking spurg out. Okay? Maybe Pisco can be redeemed, just maybe a little tiny bit, okay? Not all the way, but just a little tiny bit, okay? Redeem we allow him a little bit of redeeming, okay?
you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're accusing. You're accusing. Oh my god.
And when someone's being insincere.
You're accusing Hutch. You're accusing. I'm not talking
not
about
accusing Hutch, I'm
You're
accusing
accusing
all
Hutch
of
of
you.
trying to
And
guilt
look,
someone.
I
That's
do
not what he
wrong
was
things
doing.
too. This
That's
isn't
not
a
what he was doing.
I can just
personal attack.
guys.
I am
guys-
simply saying this conversation is
Let me share
frustrating
how I
because
feel.
instead of
speak for
talking
himself.
about like, okay, what can we do, right? Like, how can we figure out what people like Tully and things like that, what their actual
You
problems
accused
are,
Hutch of
and we can
guilting
figure
people. That's
out
not what he
how to
did.
get
That's
things
bullshit.
working again
That's
for
bullshit.
the Democratic Party. We're going to sit here and have a struggle session, right? Like,
Wait.
you regret your vote. You're a terrible person, Tully.
That's not
No,
what he's
hold on,
doing.
we're just
You're so
establishing a
full of
baseline.
shit.
That's all.
Okay,
I'm
wait,
not-
let me
it wasn't
jump
some
in.
fuckhead.
Let me
It
jump in.
Let the terrible
yeah.
person talk. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah,
I'm
let the
fucking
terrible
with you,
person
Tally. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're both right, Wick and Pisco. Okay, so I do.
Oh, pick a
Oh my god, dude, get me out of this house. Cringe.
side, you centrist. Come on.
Frankly, I know, right? Frankly, I felt moralized too more by Econoboy, and I'll touch on that because that is something that I wanted to address. You
Fair
said a lot of things that again had me think about a lot of things. The 14 million number is not what got me. connecting it to this isolationism and this idea that this idea that like every dollar that we spend abroad would otherwise be, if we just didn't fund this one program in this one country, or if we didn't support our allies who are, you know, at wars of survival, then we would all have universal health care and there'd be no homeless people and everyone would have a mansion and all of this stuff. I resent that a lot. That's creeping up a lot on the left. That sort of
100%, no, 100%. But that's not what Hutch did.
No, I agree.
Hutch
Hold on. I agree with you. So it was more compelling when we got to that second point,
right?
When we drew that direct connection. That's more compelling than the numbers, to be honest. And they're like, isn't that horrible? Because like, yes, that is obviously horrible. And it's not something that I wish to defend, you know, because that is bad. I don't want to. And again, I don't think I am responsible for the deaths of those people. Frankly, I'm just gonna be honest about the way that I see it. Yeah, sure, right.
Everybody blames the Holocauster until you become the Holocauster, okay? I know how this works, okay? Everybody goes after the Holocauster until you become the Holocauster, okay? It's really as simple as that, isn't it? You know, these Nazi civilians, it's not their fault. It's not their fault they signed up for the military. You know, they're just following orders. Mm-hmm.
But with what you were saying, Econoboy,
I suppose.
Like just the morality of the vote and stuff, and this is your perspective, and that's fine and that's fair, but like, would you, and I think maybe you would have the same perspective of like someone on the left who was just withholding their vote from Kamala and, you know, voting green or you know, voting something
else. I would
1,000%
for the record.
Right.
Fuck those people. They're just as bad as MAGA. I'm with you
Right,
on that one.
But are they
just as bad as MAGA?
Like, it kind of seems like the way that Econoboy set it up that it wasn't. Like there are like other sort of principled ways to do it. But if your vote goes for Trump,
yeah, obviously.
And I mean, fair enough. Trump is different from Jill Stein, but
well, that's my point, right? Is that obviously, you know, we can agree and disagree with like the rationale behind, you know, why somebody votes for somebody or whatnot. I mean, I think that, to be fair, look, I will say that people who didn't go out and vote for Kamala, whether it was, you know, because they wanted to vote for Trump, because of, like you, there was a protest vote for Trump, or because they had these like far left kind of, not far left necessarily, but like these very like pro-Palestinian like views, and they were very, very anti the Biden administration just generally. Yeah, I would say, of course, there's moral culpability there. I mean, for goodness sake, like I think there's such moral culpability. I'll give an example. I was listening, I don't even know why my wife was listening to this. We were in a car ride and she was listening to a radio show from Dearborn, and they just happened to be doing a segment on following up with people who didn't vote for Kamala, right? So people who voted for Trump, people who voted for the Green Party, people who just didn't vote. And obviously Dearborn's a super Muslim, most Muslim city in the country. At least it's the biggest, most Muslim city. And one thing that I thought was interesting was that the people who voted not for Kamala, right? The people who just didn't vote at all, they were willing to give interviews and they were willing to say, you know, look, this is why I didn't vote. And most of them seemed decently regretful about it, that, you know, look, honestly, I didn't think that Trump would be so bad, especially even on the issue of Israel-Palestine, to the extent that they care about it. But the ones who voted for Trump were not even willing to give an interview, right? They were not even willing to show themselves in public, right? Yeah. Well, but I'm saying like they voted for Trump for radically different reasons than I think that you did, and that's fine, obviously. But yeah, I would say that there's always a moral angle to how you vote and how you should feel about voting, right? That I do think that whether, and it should be as conscious as possible. Most people don't, but I think that if you're gonna deconstruct why you vote, you should certainly have deeply held moral reasons as to why you vote, right? Oh, I think poverty is a big deal. Well, why is that? And then think about which side is actually better or worse on those issues. Of course, there's a moral axis to this. And I mean, yeah, like I do think that to the extent that Trump is terrible, and to the extent that you thought that voting for Trump was like a good thing to do as a means to protest the Democrats.
Can you give us your read on her? She was an extreme leftist turned MAGA and is repeating MAGA talking points. Well, I think you just answered your own question, okay? Here's what I think, okay? She has an overinflated view on herself. She was a leftist activist who essentially thought that she was special, all right, because she was born wealthy. And in addition, what has essentially happened is because she found the people around her to be annoying, and because she cared about some of these issues, eventually I left the left, and that's literally it. But now she is basically a Trump voter who is trying to get into lib spaces. I would respect you far, far more if you're just willing to say, I'm an unabashed, full MAGA person, and that's literally it. But you can't have your cake and eat it too. Okay, that's literally as simple as that. Okay.
I really don't think that that was the right decision, right? Both morally and practically. That I don't think to the extent that
That doesn't surprise me.
well, but I don't think that the Democrats. I guess we haven't really gotten into what you talked about it, but I didn't really understand the answer of like what lesson the Democrats should learn from this. Like, I just don't really know that this is a long-term beneficial thing to do to like protest vote for Trump, and I think the evidence is mounting that that's the case, right? It was terrible to
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tally, if
That's-
you can respond to that, then I've got something to say to hopefully like circle this particular square. Go ahead.
Sure, that's fair, and I agree. It's obviously not like a long-term strategy. And again, like I keep trying to, unfortunately, burst Wick's balloon, which is like, well, I guess the lessons that I want the left to take away from somebody like me is like there are people who want the same sort of like social end goals that you do, who are really resentful of the grievance framing of everything, that the constant degradation of white people. And I say this as someone who like I don't see myself like I recognize that I'm white, but like I don't even put myself in that group necessarily, and I used to make lots of white jokes and stuff like that. Like I think this is toxic to our culture. I think it's like bad for the mental health of individuals who are really eating this stuff up, and I think it's bad for our society at large. And I know that's like a big like grand dramatic statement.
But how do you, Pally, here's an example. How do you weigh that against the degradation
I'm
of so many
tired.
different groups from people on the right? This is one of the issues that I seem to have foundationally with people who say that this is at least one of the predominant reasons why they are, rejecting the Democrats and not voting for the Democrats is it's like, okay, I like this colorblind approach, right? And I don't necessarily agree with that approach, but I don't think it's the most offensive thing on the planet. But again, when we compare Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, I'm sundowning,
It's
obviously.
despair.
But
You
when we
can't be the
compare
nominee
those
next
two-
year.
right. When we compare those two, one of these people had a message of joy and being uplifting, and Donald Trump was on stage
very
saying
contrived joy.
yeah.
I would
Well,
say.
whatever, Tally. The point is that Trump had a message. He literally said that Haitian immigrants were eating dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio. And if I had to compare those
We don't
two
know that they
people,
weren't.
and yeah, true. If I had to compare those two people and
I don't
say who is more likely to break the principle of a colorblind approach, it's the guy who's saying Haitian immigrants are eating dogs and cats, and it's the guy who appoints a guy named Stephen Miller who thinks that immigrants raping white women is a problem, and that's why we should. I mean, it's just like
And to give an even more specific example to piggyback off Akana Boy's point right there. So multiple times throughout their campaign, Trump repeatedly made identitarian insults towards Kamala Harris about her gender and her race. She never took the bait. At no
She didn't
point
take the
did she
bait
say.
once, yeah.
At no point did she say, "How dare you talk to a woman like that? How dare you talk to a black woman like that?" She would have been well within her rights to fire back, and she never did. Her iconic line was, something like, "That's insane. Next question." That was what she said. Next question.
Yeah.
So to Akana Boy's point, can you address that? Because Trump trafficked in more blatant identitarian rhetoric by far than Kamala Harris during the campaign.
I agree. Kamala Harris did not run an identitarian campaign. I think she explicitly toned that down. I mean, her 2024 campaign looked nothing like her previous campaigns, plural. Did she ran for president twice before? Is that right?
Once before.
Once.
2020.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're right.
She ran twice.
You're right. It's like I guess it's easier for me to conceptualize. I guess there's a few things at play, and this is something that again people don't like, but I see it as like true for me at least.
Trigger them.
There's a the left comes across to people who are like skeptical or like me or a little bit jaded or have turned anti-woke. The left comes across as very inauthentic. And so you're right. Again, I don't want people on the right talking in these identitarian terms. And by the way, that's a big thing that Wick and I talk about in this like so-called woke right? It's like
Thank you,
it's
Wick.
literally the exact
Thank you,
inverse. It's like
Wick.
straight
Okay,
white
Wick.
men are being targeted and are being
Okay,
oppressed, and we need to
All right,
implement these
Wick.
different government
Mhm.
policies to
Wick, you enable this shit.
you know, free the straight white
Fuck you,
man.
Wick.
And so I resent that stuff. I guess I saw it more as like that's Trump's personality. Like he's just like always throwing insults and jabs and stuff like that. And yeah, like I said, I was desensitized. And I'm, you know, the more we sit here and like go through all these things, like I don't think it's good that I was desensitized. I think that's an issue, and that's part of the reason that I have frustration with the left.
You raised a point there that I thought was very interesting. You said authenticity, and I actually agree with you that Democrats do feel inauthentic to a lot of people, and that's something that I think a common theme on Live and Learn is like making fun of people like Chuck Schumer and other people when they are inauthentic.
Oh God,
or like
kill me.
So
Murder me.
Wait, notice how automatically when we're talking about Chuck Schumer, she automatically goes to, oh, it's so easy for me to start shitting now. Don't you guys find that a little bit suspicious? How she automatically goes to shitting on mode when we're talking about Chuck Schumer or anybody who is on the left? This is why you can't grant these people anything, okay? Because you give them even room to breathe, and they will take it and they will fuck it, okay? They will fuck it like it's the hottest thing in all existence, okay? To people who will literally, like Tally, okay, who will not give up any ground, okay? She, by the way, she isn't giving up ground, okay? You might think that she is giving up ground. She hasn't given up any ground. She hasn't, okay? She's trying to have her cake and eat it too. I know what giving up ground means, okay? This is not giving up ground, okay? You're giving up the sky. That's what's happening, okay? She's not giving up ground. You're giving up the sky. All right.
The people are aroused.
I really appreciate you saying that.
No.
Because right now, what's undeniable, and why I think this conversation, even though people can judge it in the meta level, is helpful, is because there's like 70% within the Democratic Party. Put aside disaffected liberals who left the party. Within the party, there's this disaffection with the leadership, and it does center around this notion of authenticity, but also in terms of fight and ganas. And you would mention there that like you feel bad, or you feel something that like you were desensitized to some of the bad, or I don't know, the negative traits of Trump. Are you saying that from like a policy perspective or from the accusations? And do you feel bad because you think that some of the accusations are true?
The accusations about Trump?
Yeah, that he has this kind of authoritarian tendency towards him, that some of the stuff is bad. Like, why would you feel bad about being desensitized to those traits if you didn't feel that at bottom, some of these criticisms are actually true?
I do think they're true. Yeah. Like I said, like all of the criticism, I really like Richard Hanania because he kind of occupies this space that I think is really awesome, which is like he came out and like did the I regret my vote, I should have voted for Kamala, and like could have taken the ticket that everyone on both sides does when they like switch over, right? But he's just like too autistic to lie, and like he actually doesn't like the woke stuff, and he actually is like fiscally conservative, in an authentic like
Another reason to hate Trump.
He hates and he hates the terrorists.
Exactly.
He disagrees with you on, right? He disagrees with you that the presidency doesn't matter, right? The reason why he said let's vote for Trump is because he thought Trump would be different, and that seems to be a little bit counter to your notion that it doesn't really matter, who cares, right?
Yeah, I basically thought that, again, I was like caught up in this new coalition of people, and I thought there were going to be a lot of different voices around him that would moderate. I agree with you about his instincts. Like he's authoritarian, but I would even put that behind just his narcissism. Like he's authoritarian because he has a big ego and power, right? So it's like he revels in taking the power, and so yeah, I agree with you. Again, like
What's stopping you from joining Richard? Like, what about Richard's whole article and now recent commentary hasn't convinced you?
Econo boy.
nothing
What?
really. Like
Bring
I
it.
just
Oh my
the
God.
even just the term regret, and again, I don't want to get onto too much of a side note with this, but like is a concept that I've thought about separately, like within the realm of psychology, and just like what if it's even really a useful measure,
put
because
aside
people
regret.
do what
I
people
take that.
do people do what I'm doing now, right? Which is like there's like a sunk cost fallacy, right? And we try to at least rationalize it, like, well, I don't regret what I did, but I learned from it, right? People will say that they don't regret things that were like really horrible and traumatic in their lives, right?
As
That, like,
well, I think Pisco's point is as much as, I mean, personally, as much as we'd love to see every Trump supporter express regret and then change their votes, regret's not even like a necessary predicate. You know, what I think what he's asking is, given that this is not what you expected, this seems to be much worse than you expected. I mean, even fuck the regret part, just as a practical matter, why not join Richard as a public crusader against the Trump administration
right, yeah.
and
We
the
got the
MAGA Republican
midterms.
movement?
We
Yeah,
got the midterms coming up in a year and a half.
midterms coming up.
Perfect time to express your dissatisfaction with the
Kill
administration.
the past. Kill the
and you
past.
could
but
even
what about
and
the
you could
future?
even say, when somebody asks, okay, well, Tally, do you regret your vote? You could even get into like, listen, I don't
do
know.
regret.
Yeah, I don't do regret. What I do know is this is
it's
not
not
what
even
I
that I
expected.
don't do
Yeah.
regret, right? It's almost like I don't trust myself to like have a non-biased analysis, right? Like of this type of thing. I think I at least have these different, self-protection mechanisms that jump into play. But
It sounds like you're just lazy.
listen, you make an interesting point. So a few things. Back to the point that I made earlier about me not proselytizing this is like,
You want to reap the benefits of you want to reap the benefits of you want to reap the benefits of laziness, but you also want to reap the benefits of being interpreted as smart. This is trying to have your cake and eating it too, okay? You want to reap both. You can only choose one. You're only allowed to be lazy and smart at the same time when you're already smart, okay? Do your research. Know what the fuck you're talking about before you come onto a political show and make a fool out of yourself by acting like the most gaped centrist ever. Like, fuck.
for example, the origin of the trial of Tali was because I like mentioned that I voted Trump, and that surprised people. So I don't walk around talking about how great the Trump administration is. I don't walk around saying how wonderful the things that his administration is doing. I comment, like, I tweet sometimes, and when we're having discussions that are topical, which oftentimes they are on WhickTV, I share my input. And I feel like what I have now is instincts that have become a bit more conservative, and I even think about my conservatism as like I want to conserve liberalism in more of the classical way, although I'm not exactly a libertarian. But
I get that, and I agree, because you're saying you're not proselytizing, you're not here for a campaign purpose. You struggled with, and you didn't like broadcast your vote, and you struggled with it internally. But so putting aside the proselytizing part, why not take Richard's tack and in the future potentially vote for? Don't vote. I'm not saying vote for a Democrat. In the future, like, are you going to be voting for Democrats or not, or voting for Republicans, or is it going to be more issue by issue? Or do you know what I'm saying? Like, if the choice comes before you again, are you going to?
it's probably going to
behave
be
differently?
candidate. Yeah, I don't know, right? So again, I'm now when it was leading up to the election, I was very much like, the left is headed in totally the wrong direction, and I'm willing to even just take the gamble of what this is. Right now, I'm like, oh, the right is headed in the wrong direction. And again, I make more of a focus on like the cultural right. Not that I take issue with a lot of the things that the administration is doing, but again, just like I was seeping up the culture of the left, right? The social cultural influences of the left. I'm really concerned about those on the right now.
Right? Is that correct, Tali? That it would be the people who are in the party, the influencers within the party, not so much
Yeah,
the
and I
politicians
mean,
within each party, right? So not so much
right. And
Chuck
first of
Schumer
all,
or Biden or
no,
any of those
correct.
people, but it's the people who.
I think a good question to ask her is, would you vote for Trump again in any circumstance? let's just say on the other side is Biden's dead corpse, okay? It's Biden's corpse up against Trump, okay? It is a very close vote. It comes down to tally to make the vote between Biden's corpse and Trump. Who would she vote for? There's no need to go this far. There's no need to go this far, all right? Just ask the question that we're all thinking. Would you vote for Biden's corpse? Okay, would you vote for Biden's corpse or would you not? You're saying she would vote for him now? She is.
Like, for
Yes,
example,
and
live
these
and learn,
these
right? For example, people who are the Kyle Kalinskis, right? The all the other like culture around it, and same on the right. So you have the people who are like, I don't know, like you
Charlie
mentioned,
Kirk?
like the Tucker Carlsons and things like that. It's the culture, and this is the frustrating part, because you guys are like, well, the policies of the Democrats are better, and sure, yes, absolutely, but a lot of people vote on culture. A lot of people vote on culture, and when they talk about culture, they don't care so much what the politicians say or do. They care how they are treated. They care how they are treated when they go into spaces that are left-leaning or right-leaning. And when they go into space like left-leaning, and then you see miles and miles of chat saying she's a racist, she's a bigot, all she cares about is Israel, kick her off, gang. Do you not think that this has an effect that is far greater than any policy position on influencing people and what they do?
You're
I think
does.
we're
you're
treating
asking
her
us
with
to-
respect. I think we're treating her
She is a grown woman, okay? She can make her own fucking decisions. You're not her dad, Mr. Girl 2.0, okay? Lavloon, Mr. Girl 2.0 with Lavloon 2.0, okay? You're not her dad, you fucking weird old freak, okay? She's a grown woman. She's a grown, married woman. You sad, pathetic, little wriggling prick, okay? Don't fucking take away her autonomy, you rapist.
with respect, and we're treating her like a
You
human
are.
being. We're not coddling her.
Did you not
and
hear
we're-
anything I just said?
Yeah, I understand. And the chat stuff, I don't think that Tully would ask for
Some animosity here, boys.
Like I don't think she would be like, okay, you censor your chat so they don't criticize me and the Israel stuff. We're sussing out, and at times, we both, Wick and I have admonished our chats. Me privately, Wick, Hutch and I have admonished our chats to like be respectful and be kindful, whatever. And when Doobie had that little super chat and said, "Hey, $10, all you care about Israel," I spoke up and I said she literally said the opposite, that it wasn't influenced by Israel. And so I think that we're being confrontational in a sense, but I'm trying to treat her as a peer and not
You
as
are.
some like.
I'm not
yeah.
talking about you
Yeah.
specifically right now.
Okay.
I'm talking
No.
about culture in your
No.
community.
It's like to Wick and Tolly, like this is
Are you
something I go
actually
round and round
kidding
on.
me?
I identify with some of the shit that you're talking about. Like I was way more we'll say progressive. Like I still call myself a progressive. I was way more progressive. I was like fully in the tank in like 2019 and 2020. There was more of like a unifying purpose back then. So like I got along more with people to my left because Trump was this great unifying presence. He gave this kind of clarity. Like there wasn't a lot of discussion about intra-party civil war because he was the threat. I mean, and add on top of that the George Floyd stuff that he just made 10 times worse, the COVID response, and it was just a really intense time, but there was more to get along with. And once Biden was elected, I started really scrapping with a lot of people who, I mean, just like to your point, there are fully psychotic people on the left. They are toxic to the left-wing politics. They are not concerned with institutional power. All they care about is moralizing and telling you you're a bad person. And they think that
ContraPoints
this
meme.
makes the
They don't want power. They want to
Yes.
endlessly critique power.
and
Yes,
these people
yes.
exist in large numbers in online spaces, and I would assume in activist spaces. So I guess what I would encourage you to do is like what I did is like I say, fuck these people. I fight with these people constantly. But at the end of the day, I'm not thinking about them when I go to vote. Like they have no part to play in my thinking whatsoever. I'm thinking about like, what are the consequences of this election? What can I expect is going to happen if this candidate wins or this candidate wins? You can still fight with these insane lefties. Like,
No,
believe me, I do
correct.
it daily.
Hutch, you're
Right.
correct. You're correct. That's
Yeah.
exactly what we should do and what people should do. But what I'm trying to point out is that that's not what people do. That's not how people vote.
No, fuck them.
I
I'm just
agree
saying
with
I
you.
don't want
Change that,
they
though.
should not
But you
factor
should
into
change that.
I
I
should
hear
or
you.
should
You
not or
should
whatever.
change-
Ideally,
I
they
hear
would
you.
not factor
Fucking
into your
change
decision
that.
making. is
I
my
hear
point.
you, and I agree with you, and even like WhickTV, I mean, it's not hatred from people online that motivates me. It's really not. And so this is where like I was talking Wick gave me a therapy session earlier today. I was really stressed about this, guys. And I was, again, I have a parasocial relationship with Hutch, right? Because I watch your stream. And I knew that you would relate to like some of these things.